Hello everyone, once again. I am back with Chapter 7. This is actually a pretty good chapter. Now let's get into it. Chapter 7. Michelle and Mike crept sexily into Lisa and Johnny's apartment, tiptoeing. Michelle carried a book in case they were caught. Just doing homework, they would say. A flimsy excuse, sure, but an excuse nonetheless. You don't sneak into a friend's house to have sex without a backup plan. Mike carried a box of chocolates. How much time do we have? Michelle asked, her hand on Mike's muscular chest. He was short but beefy, his hair spiked. She was lean, thin. Together, they were electric. I don't know, couple of hours, at least, Mike assured. Michelle lay herself down on the couch and Mike joined her. Well, let's have some fun, she said. Mike opened the box of chocolate. Did you know, he asked playfully, that chocolate is the symbol of love? Michelle giggled to herself. She knew, of course. They'd known for months. That's why they always brought it for their love-making adventures. He grabbed a nugget and made for her open mouth. Carefully, she bit down on it and held it between her teeth. Mike leaned in, their lips touched, and they chewed in unison, the chocolate melting and swirling between their tongues. God. She grabbed at him with passion. The chocolate done, he smiled and nodded, reaching for another piece. This time he placed it on chest, just above her breasts, then quickly proceeded to lap it up, kissing her tenderly in the process. Yum, she moaned in ecstasy. It's delicious, he mumbled, his mouth filled with caramel. He reached back in to kiss her. She pushed him back gently. Arms up, she commanded. Like a child waiting to get dressed, Mike shot his arms into the air. Michelle yanked off his sweater and tossed it aside, pushing his shirtless chest down onto the couch. He looked up at her with expecting puppy dog brown eyes. Slowly, she reached for her own piece of chocolate, then dropped it on his salivating tongue. This time he held it between his teeth, and they repeated their earlier kiss. Brown was smeared over both of their mouths and chests. Michelle turned their kiss into a downward motion and started heading toward Mike's crotch. Mike's face twitched and contorted with pleasure, eventually twisting into a huge shit-eating grin. In fact, to an onlooker, it might have looked as though he was literally eating shit. But no, not today. He closed his eyes and let Michelle work her magic. They had only just finished when an abrupt noise came from the door. It was Lisa and her mother, Claudette. The two had lost track of time in their chocolate-fueled erotic escapade and hadn't realized it was time for them to return home. Mike raced to pull on his sweater, and in his confusion put it on backwards, the tag facing outward. The couple stood at attention. Claudette jumped back, shocked. Hello, she called out, then turned to Lisa. What are these characters doing here? Lisa giggled, but quickly caught on to the situation. They like to come here to do their homework, she said with a wink in her smile. Good, Michelle thought. She remembered the cover story. What homework? Claudette clearly wasn't buying it. Lisa put a reassured hand on her mother. Mom, this is Michelle's boyfriend, Mike. Mike put out his hand, but Claudette simply rolled her eyes and didn't budge. Mike, Lisa groaned, this is my mother. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mike offered. Claudette sighed and shook her head. Mike took the opportunity to head for the door. Uh-huh, Michelle agreed, then followed after her boyfriend. With that, Michelle and Mike were gone. Claudette rolled her eyes again. She didn't understand the way her daughter lived her life. Never would. She considered bringing it up, but thought best of it. She was too tired. Instead, she simply went for the couch. When she sat, she let out a sigh of relief. All that shopping wore me out. No sooner were the words out of her mouth than a boy she hadn't remembered seen strolling through the front door. He had shaggy brown hair and looked like a lanky creep. Hi, Lisa, he said. Hey, Denny, Lisa greeted back. She turned to her mother and gestured. Denny, this is my mom. Mom, this is Denny. Denny smiled at her. How many people come in and out of this apartment every day? She asked. It seemed to her that the room was a revolving door of useless, disconnected encounters with a random assortment of characters that were only loosely related to her daughter and her troubles. Oh my God, that is so accurate! This is worse than Grand Central Station. Denny simply shrugged, then shook his head confused at Lisa. I just need to borrow some sugar. Help yourself, Denny, she offered. I also need a cup of flour and half a stick of butter. Denny was making meth brownies with the drugs he had just bought, and the recipe on the internet listed those ingredients. I fucking knew it was for drugs. I fucking knew it. Oh, God, that's perfect. Okay. Doesn't your home have a kitchen? Claudette asked, as much out of confusion as out of annoyance at the young boy. Denny held up his arms in defeat. I'll come back later. He turned and went straight out the door, which hadn't closed since he entered. And with that, Denny was gone. Lisa walked towards her mother, shooting her a harsh look. Claudette replied with her customary roll of the eyes. Lisa sat on the couch beside her. Tell me, Claudette, what does Denny do? Lisa had been waiting for someone to ask this very question for what seemed like an eternity. Any trace of her earlier resentment was erased as she geared up to tell the story. She launched straight into it. Johnny wanted to adopt Denny. It's really a tragedy how many kids out there don't have parents. When Denny turned 18, Johnny found him a little apartment here in this building, and he's paying for it until he graduates from school. She paused, momentarily overwhelmed by the sincerity of Johnny's generosity. Johnny really loves Denny, even though he doesn't say it much. He's like a father figure to him. I told you, Mom. Johnny is very caring about the people in his life, and he gave Denny his own set of keys to our place. Claudette frowned. She couldn't put together how Lisa, even though she clearly thought Johnny to be a good man, was plotting against him. Please don't hurt Johnny, she said firmly. Lisa's beaming features darkened. She knew that her mother was right from a logical perspective. Now, if you don't love him, so be it. But you should tell him. Mike came bursting into the room. Running out of breath, he went straight for the couch. I forgot my book. He grabbed the decoy book that Michelle had brought, but it was only that, a decoy. The thing he really came back for was currently in Claudette's hands. What is this? She said, spreading out his black underwear. Lisa giggled to herself. Oh, that's nothing, Mike said, quickly grabbing the undergarment and bolting out as fast as he had come in, shutting the door behind him. The two women couldn't help but laugh to themselves. Homework? Claudette exclaimed sarcastically. Don't worry about, Lisa said through laughs. Claudette put her hand on Lisa's wrist. If I were a burglar, you would be my best friend. Don't hurt. Look, I don't want to talk about it, Lisa said with a dismissive smile. You know I worry about you. Claudette looked at her daughter in the eyes. She didn't seem to get it. Oh, I have to go home. Okay, Mom. Lisa made a kiss and tapped Lisa on her nose, their little goodbye since Lisa was a girl. Bye-bye, and with that, Claudette was gone. Lisa fell on the couch, exasperated. Oh my God, Lisa sighed herself. The whole thing was getting increasingly repetitive and difficult to continue through, she thought. And that was the end. I love how the author is pointing out that it's getting repetitive because it is a repetitive movie. Anyway, I will see you all for the next chapter. Till then, take it easy.